there's enough money out there for everybody. There's enough houses for everybody to start investing and really start creating that generational wealth that we're all chasing after. And so, we'd like to think that we try to do the same thing for people a couple steps behind us. And we got lucky that people who were a couple steps ahead of us showed us the ropes. We're all playing the same game. So, the more we can help each other out, the better.
Hello and welcome to the Obsessed with Real Estate show. I am your host, Alana George, and I am obsessed with real estate. We have a great show lined up today with Fernando Pineyro and Alex Dant with KDB Real Estate, and they share all about their strategy of buying single-family homes and renting by the room. I had so many questions, a lot of deep dives on that. And they also talk about DSCR loans, and we do a deep dive into partnerships. So they're best friends and they're partners, which is wild to me. I will be having my best friend on the show here in a month or so. And she's amazing and I love her, but we wouldn't partner up together. And maybe you'll see why when she's on the show. Anyways, I loved talking to Alex and Fernando, and they were just lots of fun and had a lot of information to share. And they're so young, and I'm so jealous because they're much younger than I am and much younger when they started. So super cool stories. But before we get into that, I want to do a quick check-in. So not a lot going on new in my real estate life, just a lot of property management for my 5 units in Northeast Ohio. I'm also looking at other markets, looking at San Antonio, and I'm still interested in Northeast Ohio, but kind of getting the bug to buy again. I'm getting the itch. So maybe that'll be a plan in the next 6 months. We will see. I want to chat about outsourcing. We talked a little bit on the show. Fernando and Alex are right on the cusp of really being able to hire out things like property management and tedious tasks that they don't want to do and they both don't enjoy doing. So I want to talk about that just briefly and how outsourcing and being okay with letting go has really changed my life. I encourage you to look at all of the tasks that you are doing currently, especially us women who wear so many hats, and look at what could you feasibly outsource. I have a VA and she's changed my life as well. There's a lot of tasks that come up for me that I don't even think about doing anymore, right? A lot of the technology stuff having to do with this podcast is just beyond me. I could do it. I could take the time to figure it out and I could execute it. But do I want to when I know that somebody else can do it so much faster and easier? And I'm learning more and more about what I should and shouldn't be doing in my life. I have a book recommendation, Do Less by Kate Northrup. And I read this a few months ago, actually, probably in Q1. It says a revolutionary approach to time and energy management for ambitious women. I saw that and I'm like, bingo, that's me. I was feeling overwhelmed at the beginning of the year. And there's a lot of action steps that she gives to doing less, which doesn't mean being less. If we want to go further, faster, we can't do it alone. And we have to really work on our self-awareness, which I talk about with Fernando and Alex today, on what we are good at and what we're not good at, or what we don't enjoy doing. Maybe you're good at it, but you don't like it. Does it feel heavy to you? So Kate Northrup in her book goes through, strategies for listing out the things that you're doing, list out your biggest successes and what actions came from that. For me, it's like, what am I naturally good at? And what are dollar producing activities that I couldn't outsource, right? When I was looking for my real estate sales business. And that really helped me grow faster. And I'm able to do more and be more by having people help me. Imagine that. It's so hard to do sometimes, is letting go of the results. And I get this superwoman mentality where I have to do everything and be everything to everybody. And it's just exhausting and it's not true. It's not real. That's not how life is. So being true to myself is letting my natural abilities shine through, right? I'm good at a handful of things. And if I lean into those hard enough, I can build a whole career and life around those. So really accepting that. Now, before we hop into our show, another little fun fact is that we actually had an earthquake during the show. And I had an inkling that we were having an earthquake while Alex was talking. I held the table and tried to play it cool. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but I live in the Redwood Mountains in Santa Cruz Mountains. And I also thought maybe it could just be a redwood tree falling or something, which doesn't happen that often, but trees fall. It's not a big deal. And so the whole house was shaking and I tried to play it cool. And I never want to assume that we're having an earthquake if we're not. It didn't seem like there was any damage. It wasn't that big, but kind of a funny story because we were already talking about California natural disasters with fires. So that's California. If it isn't on fire, it's shaking or the like. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let's jump right in. All right. I have Fernando Pineyro and Alex Dant with KDP Real Estate. I'm so excited for you guys to be here. Thank you so much for joining us.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me here.
Great. So I met these two at BPCon. So huge plug for BPCon. It's great at networking. You meet some cool people. This was at a bar after the welcome party that somebody told me there was going to be an after party at this bar. And so I went there and I was just sitting at a table by myself and you guys came and sat with me. And so that was really cool. I don't even know because my back was like facing the whole place if it ended up being a party or not, or if it was just like 5 people.
Not too many people made it to the after party, but I think that's when the best networking happens anyway, is when you can get a little bit more like one-on-one time with people, hear a little bit more about their story besides, hi, I'm Alex, I buy here, and then on to the next one. So it was nice to catch up over some drinks too.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody showed up to that, but everybody has their little tags. So we're just looking around like for other people that also are at BPCon. So at least we have that in common.
Yes, I did the same. And I think that you're right, Alex, because the welcome party was so loud. It was at a nightclub and here we are trying to network. And it was like, hi, I'm Alana.
Yeah, my voice was gone by the first day and the party was awesome. It was a blast. So thank you again to Bigger Pockets for throwing it. But we were all screaming just to hear what each other's name was. And then by the time it came to the next day, I sounded like a toad.
Yeah, absolutely. My head was hurting. I wasn't even drinking, but like I felt like I was going to have a hangover from just like yelling, trying to meet people in this crowded bar or nightclub. I think that was thrown by Aloha Capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you to them. That was a really cool party. It was just really loud. And maybe that comes with age, right?
Funny how they told us the after party was going to be at the country bar. And Nashville is known for country music. We just can't get away from
we couldn't get away from it.
It was like perfect. That's right up your alley.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that worked out because I had a good time chatting with you. And I felt like your story was really interesting. We kind of dove a little bit deep there. So I'd love for you to share a bit of your background and how you two met.
Absolutely. From the Dominican Republic, lived in Florida for a while, enlisted in the Army. I got stationed at Fort Campbell in Clarksville, Tennessee. Was in for about 5 years and started investing at the end of that.
Yeah, and I'm from right outside of Philadelphia. So I enlisted in the Army at 18 as well. I got to the base. Fernando was already there, and we kind of became friends pretty quickly after showing up. And from there, so me and him became close just through the Army. As we were going through that, at one point we were deployed to West Africa. We didn't have much time to do, or we didn't really have anything to do while we were over there besides stare at the desert, work out, and then be very, very bored. And so we were lucky. We had a mentor that kind of started showing us the ropes with real estate. He already had a couple rental properties. So at that point, I think we were probably 19. We knew we didn't want to stay in the Army for the long term. We kind of got to a point where we accomplished most of our goals in the military. We were ready to move on. And this guy showed us what he was doing. He kind of lit the flame and we were like, this real estate thing sounds pretty cool. Long story short, we started buying houses together after that. And then now we are here after meeting you at the Bigger Pockets conference.
That is amazing that you had a mentor like that, right? Not everybody gets somebody that shows them the ropes. And I think that the real estate community is very unique like that. Like everybody's willing to share because there's so much real estate and money and housing to go around that, if you shared what you were doing with somebody else, just like we're doing here on this podcast, it doesn't take away, it just enriches your life, right? It doesn't take away from your portfolio. Like everybody's I've ever met that has been successful is willing to share.
Right. There was no lack of properties to be bought. We could have bought more than 100 properties and we all would have made it out fine. So
yeah, and that's one of the really cool things about the real estate world and the investing world is everybody is so welcoming. Everybody really does want to show what they learn to other people. The cool thing with real estate, there's enough money out there for everybody. There's enough houses for everybody to start investing and really start creating that generational wealth that we're all chasing after. And so, we'd like to think that we try to do the same thing for people a couple steps behind us. And we got lucky that people who were a couple steps ahead of us showed us the ropes. We're all playing the same game. So, the more we can help each other out, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can team up with each other. And it's just such a win-win-win sharing. My next question for you two is, would you say that you two are BFFs?
I would say outside of work, I would never hang. I'm just
yeah. As soon as the camera is off, we don't talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about the money.
I live here and I don't talk to him at all.
Oh yeah,
outside of work.
We'll share a little bit our living situation. So we're young guys. So we got out of the military and so he was the first one who bought a house. And so he bought a house using his VA loan. And pretty soon after that, guess who came knocking? It was like, hey, man, you got an extra room for me to bunk up? So that was our first deal, was a house that he bought with his VA loan. And then soon after, we bought some other houses and we soon ended up moving into this one. So we're house hacking. He's got a room. I got a room. Our office is in a 3rd bedroom. And then the 4th bedroom, we're renting out to a buddy. So you can say that we do a lot together, including work together. We'll hit the gym together sometimes too. Depending on the day. So we're kind of in it we eat, sleep, and breathe real estate right now at this point in our life.
Yeah, it's pretty much all the same interest outside of.
Yeah. Sounds like you're pretty obsessed with real estate.
I would say a little bit.
Shameless plug. Can you go? I want to just do a little deep dive there and talk about the VA loan for somebody who hasn't heard of it. And probably people in the military know about it. I don't know if this would be a good reason to join the military. I'm definitely jealous that you get to take advantage of this. Can you fill us in on that?
I would say do not join the military just for the benefits. That's not why we joined. I didn't even know that it was available until a couple of years into the Army.
Oh, wow.
17-year-old me, very novice, did not know a whole lot besides how to do push-ups. So the VA loan is definitely a powerful tool and can be used to exponentially grow your portfolio, and especially if you use it to house hack. Right before I got out, I was telling everybody that I knew. I had a couple of soldiers under that I was leading, and I was telling them to just use their VA loan and how you can use it, how you can live for free, and all of the benefits associated with that. And maybe stuck with some of them, I'm not sure, but I was definitely trying to educate as many soldiers as I could.
Yeah. And so the really cool thing about the VA loan, it's 0% down. Its counterpart to non-veterans is the FHA loan, which, as a lot of us probably know, 3.5% down. Both of them are awesome tools to take advantage of. Whether you're a veteran, use that VA loan or not, you can use that FHA loan. So those are good, normally up to 4 units, so quadplexes or less, as long as you're living in one of the units. The really cool thing about the VA loan, you do not have PMI, so there's no private mortgage insurance. That is something that normally you have to pay if you have less than 20% equity in a house that you're purchasing. So we don't have that. I have a cool story I like to share for this house that we live in Nashville. I bought 0% down. And just because of the seller credits, a few other things, I got paid. I think it was a $1,200 check at closing. So I got paid to buy a house. Pretty cool stuff. Obviously, that's not going to happen everywhere you go. But hey, with the market shifting even more than it has before, you might be able to pull out some seller credits and get a check at closing like I did. But that's definitely not a normal thing to happen.
In addition to that, some of the lowest rates that I've seen. So when rates hit the floor in 2020 is when I bought my first home. I mean, rates, they were offering 2.25 interest rates, which is, unheard of now.
Yeah.
And definitely something to take advantage of.
So that is awesome. And like I said, I'm super jealous. And thank you for the thorough explanation. Just as a side note, I told my dad once that I was thinking about joining the military when I was young. And he said, no way. Yeah, he just was like, nope, no, you're not.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
I love the structure of it. Right. You do this, you do this, you do this. And there's the ranking system. So, you can accelerate. And there was a lot of things that I liked about it, but my dad joined at 17 and went to Vietnam. So he was like, nope.
He probably had a much different point of view than we have.
For sure. I wasn't saying that because of the VA loan. I just genuinely didn't know what I was doing with my life. Anyways. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So we talked about how you met and how you were inspired with your mentor to get into investing. You knew you weren't going to be career military people. So tell me about that first deal.
So the first deal was in February of 2020, and it was right when I was transitioning out of the military. I had less than a year left, and I knew I wanted to get into real estate. And so to take advantage while I had the W-2 income, I started looking for houses, and specifically a house that I could house hack in. So if anybody that doesn't know, we live in one of the units and rent out the rest, or live in the house and rent out the bedrooms. Well, the numbers just didn't make sense in Clarksville with quadplexes at the time. If I moved out, I would have been cash flowing, and I couldn't afford to not cash flow, getting ready to transition out of the military and just trying to save as much as possible. So a single family home made the most sense, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. So I would be renting out 3 of the rooms, and that would be covering the mortgage on that property and then some. So I started looking in January and February. I closed on the property that was 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath. And I finished the basement out and converted that into a room and added a bathroom as well. So three roommates, and then I was living in the master.
Can I ask you, because I always hear that, like in California, we don't really have basements. And I hear about people building out the basements. Whenever I tour a home out of state or talk to contractors, they always act like that's really hard to do, like nearly impossible. How hard was that for you? Or was it pretty much finished? Like, tell me a little bit more about that, just for my own knowledge.
It wasn't finished, and the difficulty comes in with codes and regulations. So technically right now, I can't consider it a bedroom because the window is not big enough to be considered a bedroom. It has a small window, and I think it's a 4x5 or something like that. And I think has to at least be a 5x5 window, although it does have multiple exits, which is a main concern in case of a fire. But I would say that the biggest difficulty is finding a basement that has ceilings that are tall enough after you finish it to house somebody. The ceilings in this particular house were 9 foot, and after we added in some plumbing and false ceiling, it came out to around 8 feet.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Still, plenty of room down there. And it has its own separate entrance. So that tenant can just go through the back door and not bother any of the tenants upstairs.
Yeah. And one of the other concerns as it was getting done was the bathroom. So sometimes you will have issues with plumbing. Depending on how the plumbing's set up, it is tough to get certain toilets and certain setups to run water upstairs. So that's just something you'd have to talk with your GC on. They have different setups for it, and some work better than others. It depends on your budget more than anything.
Okay. It sounds like I'm just looking at basements that aren't like tall enough or deep enough. I don't know how you measure that. Yeah.
And a lot of the houses that we looked at are like pre-1980s, 90s, they're only like 6 or 7 foot before they're finished. So you'll see like on the MLS or from a wholesaler, like unfinished basement, and then you have to crouch to walk around down there if you're over 6 foot. So it depends on when the house was built in the area too.
Okay, good to know. Thanks for entertaining me with that one. So what did you learn from that first deal?
From that first deal, I was way too worried about if everything was going to work out. And I had a spreadsheet that I think I still have it, but everything was down to like the cent of what it would cost to do everything. And this house, my thought process behind this particular house was, okay, I'm adding square footage to the house. Even though it may not be considered a bedroom, it will add to this overall square footage of the house, even though it's not valued the same above ground as it is below. But I was really just ready to get started, and it made sense to have this property, even with 2 roommates, while I finished out the basement. And really just the quotes I was getting from a lot of GCs to just do it all themselves was out of my budget at the time. And so I ended up doing a lot of the work and also hiring handyman and then the professionals for the things that I needed, like the plumbing and the framing, things like that.
That's awesome. So you kind of took it into your own hands a little bit after getting really high quotes.
Right. And it's just, I don't know, I would say the main lesson is to not overanalyze, because, before that I was coming from reading all the books and listening to all the podcasts and just getting ready to the first deal. And in reality, all this that I had in my mind was not that difficult. I mean, I thought that closing was going to be this extravagant thing when it really took 20 minutes and a bunch of signatures, I also got a check back at closing, which I didn't even know was possible.
So you sound pretty analytical. Alex, are you as analytical? Or are you kind of like yin to his yang?
After that deal, his analytics went out. Not just kidding.
Not anymore. He's just threw caution to the wind.
So I would say I'm a little bit more analytical than he is. So we went into the partnership because we trusted each other and because we had the same goals and visions. Looking back, I would say that's probably not the best reason to go into a partnership. Just because just because you trust someone and just because you guys, both have this awesome vision of what you want to do in real estate. You'll see most of those partnerships end up not working out. We kind of lucked out. We do have a lot of complementary skill sets that go along with that. And so now that we've been able to really start this business, go full time into it, we're like, man, we got lucky because we're good at opposite things. So I handle a lot more of the underwriting. I'm a bit more analytical, I guess you could say, with the underwriting and looking for holes in deals. And at this point, he's like, man, let's just buy it. Like, let's just go. And I'm like, I don't know, like maybe like, let's look at it this way and that way. And he's like, let's just buy more deals. So it's a good yin and yang.
Okay. So now since then he's become, a little
he's
less than
a little bit more, I guess. It's all the deals that we see every day. If it was up to me, I would just try to buy all of them and worry about the financing and worry about the debt and worry about, the actual.
That's me 100%, because I feel like if you add enough time, it's all going to work out anyway.
Yeah.
That's how I thought.
Yeah. I think our joke is like, if it was just up to him, we'd have more deals, but be absolutely broke right now. But like, if it was up to me, we'd probably have less deals and not be as far. So it's good. Like, gotten this far because of him. And then we like also they were good deals because, hey, we both have our hands in them a little bit.
So tell me a little bit about that. You kind of touched on it. What does your portfolio look like today?
Yeah, so we kind of started specializing in weird type of rentals in Middle Tennessee. So Nashville and Clarksville are 2 of the markets that we buy in. So like Fernando mentioned, a lot of things do not work out as normal rentals in this market. So the price to rent ratio, you would be negative cash flow each month. If you just bought it, say a single family home, 3-bed, 2-bath, the typical one, and then just rent it out, you'd be negative cash flow, $200-$400. So we looked at that. We looked at what we were doing, house hacking, and we were like, hey, like we know there's a market out there for people who want to just rent a room. We were those people. When we were in the military, we did not have the best barrack situation. I spent half a summer without AC. There was a lot of gross stuff, like not clean all the time, black mold everywhere, a lot of not cool stuff going on that we were like, man, if we had a good spot to stay in that was cheap, we'd do it. But we were also making less than 30K a year at that point in our lives. So we couldn't spend $1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of looked at that in Clarksville, which is right next to Fort Campbell, the Army base. And we're like, hey, let's just try doing this with these houses as less than normal rentals, rent out by the room rentals. So we ended up furnishing the common areas. We provide a house cleaner that goes in and cleans those common areas for them. We provide Wi-Fi and lawn care, all provided with their base rent. And then these people will move into a room. They'll rent out a room from us for, in that area, it's anywhere from $550 all the way up to $750 per room. And they have everything they need. They don't have to worry about anything. They have a good place to live, a clean house with some good roommates, and we're able to cash flow on properties.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And with that, so we started doing the same thing in Nashville as well. We just noticed there's a need for it here. When we bought this house, we saw how many people reached out to us about the room. And we're like, hey, we can just start buying houses here in Nashville as well. We started buying houses here in Nashville. Now we do the same exact thing. Here it's kind of more grad students, college students, blue collar workers, a lot of people in the music industry as well. And a lot of people that just want to save some money, live close to downtown, but don't want to pay, $1,500 to $2,000 per month in a studio or 1-bedroom downtown.
Yeah, that's great. You found, a little loophole there to make it work. That's the great thing about real estate is there are so many options that when the sky is falling, rates are going up or markets don't cash flow or this or that, there's always a way. And if there's a need, right? So I have multiple questions that came to mind here. How many homes do you own now?
So we have 7 properties.
Amazing.
And we started, in February was when I first started buying, and the actual company was formed around June. So we've been investing for a little over a year and some change now. Mm-hmm. And we're now going full time into this.
So those are all single family homes that you rent by the room?
Yes, most we rent out by the room. We actually just partnered up with a halfway house, a company that helps men transitioning out of prison. And so we rent the house out to them and they turn around and rent it to their tenant base.
Okay. So they kind of sublease it from you.
Essentially, they just run their company out of that house. So they have a whole schedule that they go through with these guys and help them, find work and get up on their feet. They just need temporary housing while they transition back into the real world.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And it still cash flows. So you're doing good and making money from it. That's amazing.
Right. The main thing with that one is, although rent by the room does definitely work and it is our main strategy, doing something like this is a little bit more passive for us and just allows us to scale a little bit faster because, we see it as a win-win. We're helping them and finding a house that suits their needs and they take care of the whole property. So with this particular house, we're not providing any of the furnishing, taking care of utilities, lawn care. They do all of it.
So, that's cool.
Yeah. And these guys are willing to pay, companies like this are willing to pay a little bit higher than market rate because a lot of landlords are afraid to, do a lease with them. They're afraid that something's going to happen to their house. Exactly. They think it's more of a liability. To us, we see it and we're like, this is a win-win-win because they get a place that they can grow their business with. We get another cash flowing asset and we have to do less work with this house because whether they have 1 person in it or 7 people in it, they're still paying us the same amount of rent. And so we don't have to worry about putting people in there. A lot of these people we've been doing a lot more outreach to companies like this. And some of them are willing to sign longer than 1-year leases. Some of them are government-backed programs as well. So it's almost a guaranteed paycheck coming in compared to other rentals. That
is amazing. And I love that. What are some challenges that you're currently facing with what you're doing with renting by the room, with growing, exponentially in this year plus?
So with interest rates rising so in the last year, houses appreciated just past where we like to buy them. We could still make the numbers work. And then houses kind of started to settle. So we might see it coming down a little bit, which would help us. But as the interest rates rose, our numbers shifted a lot. So it was tough. It's tough for us. Even though we do cash flow so much more with these compared to normal rentals, it's tough for us to hit our normal metrics that we like to hit. So we normally get around 20, if not higher, percent ROI on these houses for what we're putting into it. And we're not really able to hit that anymore. It's kind of tough for us to make these houses work where they used to. And we just like to see a good buffer zone because you do have a higher risk of vacancy with these houses. Although we're signing 12-month leases with our tenants, it's just something that we always keep in mind that, hey, these things are going to take a little bit longer to lease up because it's 4 units instead of 1. Of course, the house might have a little bit more wear and tear, but we haven't had too much issues with that, knock on wood, so far. But it's mostly interest rates, finding deals now that make it work for us. So we've been doing a lot more focus on off-market deal flow as well as value-add projects going forward.
That sounds like a really good shift to make. One question that came to mind is, are you self-managing these properties?
Yes.
Yes, we're managing in-house as of right now.
Okay. What kind of issues come up with tenants do you ever have? Because this, I've talked to a lot of people about this strategy. And the number one thing that people say is like, oh, it must be a headache dealing with that many tenants, that many leases. What if they don't get along? Right? Do you find that that's an issue?
So all this comes down to vetting the tenant properly before they get into the house. And you would think that, tenants are arguing all the time over who left what in the bathroom or, some silly problem like that. But our clientele is young professionals. So whether they're in Clarksville and they're military or they're here in Nashville, and they're just young professionals. A lot of them are blue collar and they're just workforce. So they're out of the house the majority of the day anyways. When they are in the house, it comes down to us vetting them before they come in. So we do a background and credit check on everybody. And there's an interview process. So we show them the property and just make sure that what they like to do, this is the time that we take to get to know them a little bit. So we understand what they like to do, maybe on their off time, if they're musicians, so they're going to be playing their music late night. So some of these things we mitigate through one, labeling the cabinets in the houses. So every room has their own space and nobody's fighting about who has what. If there are 4 or more tenants in a room, we might have to put another refrigerator in the house and that'll take care of that issue. We just tell them to keep the furnished areas clean and the shared bathrooms clean, just to clean up after themselves. And even though we do send in cleaners once a month, it's not to say that, they can just trash the house because they know cleaners are coming in. No, we'd still tell them to clean up after themselves. But as far as, drama between roommates, that hasn't really happened just because everybody just is looking for a cheaper place to stay and just works all day. So.
Right. Who has time to fight?
Yeah. And a lot of these guys or girls just end up becoming friends after they've been in the house for 6 months, They have like barbecues outside of the house and just bring friends over, We can't really limit or control that. We're not there all the time. So, as long as nobody's complaining, then more power to them.
To us, it's really about setting expectations from the start, letting them know exactly the type of person we're looking for. We don't want the headache of dealing with somebody if they're not a good fit there. We don't want that on our other tenants as well. It's going to make it less likely for them to renew their lease if we put somebody in there that's not a good fit. It's gonna, I'm sure everybody's had that college roommate that maybe roommate after college that was a dirty bird or something like that. It drives you crazy. So that's our biggest focus, is just vetting them from the start, setting those expectations. And like you mentioned, getting rid of those friction points in the houses. We don't really check to see if they're using the cupboards that they're supposed to be using, but it's there for them so that they can use it. So that gets rid of that question, hey, whose stuff is supposed to go where? If they're using each other's cupboards, as long as they're fine with it, we don't care. These are grown adults, and we just expect them to act accordingly when it comes to that stuff. And we let them know, hey, we're not your counselor. Like, we should not know about drama going on in the house unless it's breaking the lease. And if it's breaking the law, then you call the police. And, like I said, these are grown adults. So there's not too much of an issue with that.
That's good. It sounds like you have enough systems in place, right, to prevent anything like that from happening. I love the cabinets and the idea of having everyone's separate stuff and having the cleaners come in. That really just alleviates some of those friction points, like you said. So is that something that you learned from your mentor or just from doing?
I would say mainly from doing. I mean, we lived in the first quote unquote investment. And at the time, that those were just the points that we saw we needed to mitigate. So, I mean, when you have 3 people sharing one bathroom, somebody's going to complain about who cleaned up after themselves or not, or left everything in the sink. And so these are just things that we tell them and what we expect from the beginning. And, after they're in, it's up to them to comply.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that. I kind of want to touch on, and we didn't really prepare for this, but are there any challenges of partnering with your best friend? I want to know. I couldn't partner with my best friend. I am too much of a control-oriented person. My best friend, also investor, real estate agent. Her brain works differently than mine, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So we could never partner up. But I love her. So what challenges, do you face as, not starting a fight here, but there has to be something that you guys routinely argue about or disagree on? What is it?
You want to go first?
Where do I start?
So glad you asked.
Yeah, where's my list?
So we going back to setting expectations. I mean, we've gone down the list multiple times of jobs, who does what, we talk about constantly, like what I'm good at versus what he's good at, what he likes doing, what I like doing. So I think we do run into some friction points here or there, but it's almost always when we hit points like that, we're just talking about it and communicating and being like, hey, I hate doing this. You hate doing this. At some point, we're definitely going to hire this out. Property management, we both hate it. We hate it. Like, we're like, man, like this sucks. Like we have to answer our phone constantly. Like we forget to do like we always, that's a tough one for us right now. And I wouldn't even say it's because we're butting heads. It's just something that, hey, we're excited to pass on one day, which is a cool thing about, entrepreneurship is you can grow to pass on all the things that you don't like doing or you're not good at. And at the end of the day, like I feel lucky to have him as a partner because of the things that he's so great at. So if anything, I would encourage people to just, if you are looking at a partnership, just make sure you go over everything that you expect from it and make sure you go over your strengths and your weaknesses and you're extremely honest with each other about that. I think the 3 are time, money, skills. If you have the same 3, why would you be partners? For us, like this, we kind of dug into those deeper of those skills, of the time, of the money. And it's like, why be partners with somebody who's good at the same things as you? At some point, you can just, you won't need them or you won't need each other. So it's just a constant communication with ourselves. As far as a list of things, I'll let you take the list if you thought of anything.
I would say, well, one, there has to be enough trust, with each other. Like in the very beginning, I'm not telling everybody to do this, but we were like, hey, we're all in. We like not joined bank accounts, but in our business account, we contributed around the same of what we both had into this.
Grant, we already had that trust from our time in the Army. Like
right.
He had my bank information, and I never thought about it twice. I would he would ask me for it.
Yeah, I would say that's where that stemmed. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure in the military, like there's a lot of trust. You're literally potentially going into combat zones and trusting each other with your lives. I would imagine that would build that trust pretty fast.
And I would say, I mean, that's where it's definitely stemmed, and it's definitely grown since then. And in the beginning, at least right now, we both have to wear a lot of hats in the business. Mm-hmm. But even in those hats, there's definitely things that he's good at, definitely things that I'm good at. And, we don't try to mix those. So even though we did start kind of doing it all, now the partnership is more aligned with what our interest in and what we're good at. So
Yeah.
Right now, he's handling most of acquisitions. We still decide on whether we want to offer on a property or not. So, he's skimming through it, and then once one hits the table and that we're ready to go on, we both decide on it. I'm more handling asset management and just the product. So a lot of handling the tenants, contractors, vendors, things like that. And actually, systematizing the business plan. And I think that's where I come in. And eventually, there'll be roles that we hire out and just things we don't like to do. But right now, it's just both staying in our own lane. So we're not really butting heads ever.
Yeah. And we made an Excel sheet at one point with every single thing we do in the business. And I color coded it. So it's like both is this color, blue's this color, red's him, blue's me. And it was too early on that it was like every single thing we both had to do because we were both working full-time jobs. So like it wasn't real. Like we were just doing things out of necessity to grow, right? It's very, very different when you're working a full-time job. You're just doing things to grow. Sometimes you can't be that specific with, hey, what am I good at versus what you're good at? Sometimes I had to do things I felt like I was bad at, but it's just part of the grind of growing. I still do. And I know he still does too.
Don't let him cut the grass.
Yeah. That's right. Not with our, but yeah. No, we have this famous mower that we were using for far too long on our house that it was held together by 550 cord, which is just pretty much exactly what you think. It's just a string. So we had a mower that we would refuse to get rid of.
We still have it.
Yeah, we
oh my gosh.
We hired that out now. But so it really funny. Was just, hey, sometimes you have to do what you don't like to, as long as you constantly communicate about what you are and are not good at. That's helped us a lot moving forward and as we've grown.
So I hear a lot of communication out of both of you, which is great. Not sitting on issues is how I interpret communication, and self-awareness, right? Is, like you said, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're bad at. How have you developed such keen self-awareness at such an early age? Because you two are both rather young and you got into business together at how old were you? 20, 19, 20? Or was that when you were in the military?
20?
I think we were 20.
20? So normally 20-year-olds do not have that kind of self-awareness of knowing what they're good at, knowing what they're bad at, or just knowing who they are and what they like. Is there anything specific that got you there to have this self-awareness?
I think it's definitely just thinking in terms of scale and in a bigger picture, right? Because even though we're starting this company now, we're trying to implement all of the systems now so that it can run itself at some point, and we can just, hire out pretty much everything, right? At some point, we don't want to be hands-on in this business, and this is why we started in the first place, right? And everybody's chasing that dream. But I think just having a bigger picture and starting now, kind of going from there and then backtracking to how we're going to get there, and then that's where the goals come in, and then lead, or I guess allotting our roles within that, right? So it's just thinking bigger, working backwards from there, putting systems in place to get there, and then just keep doing the everyday task.
And we live in a great day and age where all the knowledge to grow, to do whatever you want to do, for us, it's build a real estate business. All the knowledge is out there. So those guys that are doing $100 million deals, that own $100 million of real estate, they're putting all this content out there for people like me and Fernando, for people like you, for anybody that wants to start doing anything to learn from. So you don't have to make the same mistakes, the same growing pains as people once did. You can just go online. We're constantly learning. If it's not a football or baseball game on, then we have a YouTube video on about, one of these, whether it be Alex Hermosi, whether it be the Bigger Pockets guys, whether it be, the countless other people in real estate or business, that we're trying to learn from those people so that we don't have to make those mistakes early on. And, we're pretty much just doing what everybody's telling us to do that's already done it.
So there's a lot of knowledge out there, but I mean, like, how did you gain this knowledge about yourself? Do you just naturally know what you're good at?
I think it just by doing, really, we gained that.
You're like, this feels good. This doesn't feel good. Clearly, I don't know how to cut grass.
Yeah.
Making a mental list, do the task and then rate yourself. Do the task.
We're very honest with each other, coming from the background that we did. You didn't have to ever sugarcoat anything.
Good.
So
you can say, Fernando, you suck at this.
Yeah. We've said that to each other multiple times. So about different things. So I think that's one of the things that, we don't feel like we need to sugarcoat things with each other. So I think that helps out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you a real example. So part of the business that he works with the most is talking to wholesalers. Now, a lot of wholesalers are good at their job. Some are not. I would just much rather not be on the phone with them all day looking for deals. He is a talker and can be on these calls all day long. I can't do it. I would just much rather him do it. He has the patience for it and can do it, right? I'm more direct to the point, hey, did this get done? Yes or no? Let's move forward with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just like a small example, but, noticing that early on in these stages, we're just.
Yeah. And even one that I have is, say, if I had to hop on a computer and just stare at a screen and get locked up going through the accounting things that we still do ourselves, or certain things that we still do ourselves that are very concentrated work. That's not stuff that I'm always the best at. So granted, sometimes I do have to still do that type of things, but I'm also like, thank God he's here to handle most of this stuff for us as we're going through.
I love that. So it sounds like a pretty good match. I would love to hear now a little brag on yourselves. It's not easy to toot our own horn sometimes. And so tell me, each of you or combined, what's something you are especially proud of yourself for?
In real estate?
Anything.
Oh, in anything? I wasn't prepared.
Anything.
No, okay.
I wasn't prepared for anything.
And it could be real estate. It could be anything. Really, if you could do like a one-handed push-up or a good golf game, that could, I don't know.
I'll say I had knee surgery at 21. I had an ACL, MCL tear, and just got a brand new one. Picked it off the shelf. Brand new knee. So after that, I want to say 9 months after that, I hit a front squat PR, and that was like a huge deal to me. Why couldn't I do that with my old knee? I don't know, but this new knee I got is amazing. So.
New robot knees. So good job on that. You recovered plus some. That's amazing. I would be proud of myself too. Alex?
I think he's being modest. He hit 315 front squat for like 5 or something, or 3 something one day after having a torn ACL like 7 months prior, which was ridiculous. And then I think he benched 315 that same week. So this dude's super strong. I'm always very jealous, which is why we don't work out together most of the time, because I just get insecure when I'm lifting with them. But
I also had surgery, so probably why
yeah, there you go. Whatever they gave you after that surgery worked out for you. But I'm going to stick to real estate with mine. I'm going to go with the first deal that we used with the first time we used somebody else's money for a deal. We were very nervous going into that one. And it's something you hear about a lot about, hey, use an investor's money, use somebody else's money, whether it be burn or long-term rentals. We did it with a long-term rental. We built a relationship with somebody that was also in the real estate world, showed them the returns that we were getting, asked them if they wanted to partner up with us. And we were getting, just because of this weird method that we were doing, everybody was like rent out by the room, looking at us crazy. And then when we got a chance to sit down with them, show it, the numbers that we were going to be able to produce, we were able to get a deal done with him, and we were able to give him even higher returns than he expected. So for us, that was a good bit ago now, but it was a pretty big moment for us because we've realized, hey, we really can scale this thing, helping other people out, grow their wealth as we grow our own at the same time. Coming from the Army, we were enlisted. So like I mentioned earlier, we were making less than $30K a year. We nickel and dimed our way through it when we realized, hey, we want to get into this real estate thing, but our own money was only going to take us so far with that. And so we were able to do a few deals ourselves. And then we're like, hey, I don't know how fast we'll be able to continue to scale. We know we want to grow quickly. We'd like to think that we know what we're talking about with this stuff. What's the next step for us? And that next step was bringing on an investor. So we got that deal done. We've been able to do a few more deals with investors, and that's something that we love doing. We think there's enough money out there for everybody in real estate, so why not partner up and we can all help each other grow?
It's a much better answer.
Well, I like them both. They both talk about overcoming a challenge, right? So with your knee, it was a huge setback, right? Having to get knee surgery, torn out ACL, that could ruin careers. It can, mindset wise, that's a huge hurdle to overcome. And you did, and you pushed past it. And the same, it's very scary taking on private money, right? You have a relationship with this person. You don't want to let them down. Can you do it? Right? Can you deliver on your word? And you also surpass expectations. So you both really overcame these challenges in the same fashion. So I think they're both great answers.
Thank you. What about you, Alana? Do you have one that you recently?
Wow. I didn't expect to answer that.
Surprise questions.
I know. I'm really having to go through this. Semi-real estate, semi-not. 2020 was a really hard year to get through. And the fact that I'm still alive is huge, because that year in January, we closed on our first out-of-state investment. And I spent all of our savings on that because I was so committed to doing it. And, at that time when I got into contract, it was probably November, December, COVID-19 wasn't really a thing, and nor do I watch the news. So it wasn't even on our radar. Right.
And in California, was it?
No, I live under a rock in the mountains, clearly. I'd heard a rumor about it, but that Christmas before that, my grandpa went into the hospital. Then we closed on our house and signed a lease for my husband's new business that he was starting that January, 2 weeks. So all of the money went to that, to the investment. We signed a lease for my husband's business. 2 weeks after that, I had our first baby, and I was trying to manage a flip, nurse this child round the clock, and help my husband with his business, because I'm not very paperworky, but he's even less paperwork.
Oh, no.
So there are so many permits involved with having a motorcycle shop, as well as selling propane. And we had a U-Haul dealership that was attached with it. So it was all so much new at the same time. I ended up losing both my grandparents that year, and a fire came through our entire neighborhood, and we were evacuated for 2 months. And so our house did not burn down, but all of my neighbors did. Wow. And just getting through that year, I don't even know how. I feel like I just had blinders on the entire time, just putting one step in front of the other. So when I think about challenges I've overcome, I literally don't even know who that person was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That just kept going.
That's amazing. I don't know. How are you here right now?
I don't know. It was and I'm sure a lot of people have their 2020 horror story, what could go wrong, did go wrong. And, I'm grateful to be here in my home. My daughter's healthy. That investment property is now paying off. But it was a stressful year, to say the least. So getting through that, It has to be one of the biggest things I've overcome. I have this like personality if I take on a lot at a time and then I get overwhelmed. And I like take a year to chill. And then the next year I take, pile it on. It's like this back and forth momentum. So I'm not like hugely surprised that I piled so much on. Like, yeah, I'm having a baby. We'll start a new business. I'll spend all my money. All these natural disasters will happen. Not a big deal. So anyways, that's the thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, so next time we complain about not having enough time, we'll just remember your story.
Right.
Yes. My husband would come home and say, Alana, have you been outside? When was the last time you showered? I'd be in the same spot. Like, I just need to order more materials. And then like, it was like, just, I don't want to say a nightmare. It was just like so overwhelming. I don't know how I did it. So I want to channel that in my day to day. Like you said, like when I feel overwhelmed or stressed, like this is nothing.
Yeah, that's right. We'll
okay.
definitely keep that in mind. We'll put it up on one of our whiteboards.
Yeah,
just for inspiration. So we have like about 10 of them in this office. So
yeah. So we can move on to that because I know you want to talk about your whiteboards.
No.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that for a while. I don't know if we have the time.
Well, you brought it up. You're obsessed. Are you both obsessed with whiteboards?
Yeah. I think we're sitting at 6 and 5 in here, and then probably 8 in the house.
We just have to get our ideas on whiteboard. Otherwise, they're not true.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll disappear.
Every whiteboard we buy, we feel like we're a little bit closer to the goal. So.
There is something so magical about whiteboards. Absolutely. I feel like they inspire like so much creativity, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a blank canvas.
Yeah. Then the next time we're on, there'll be like 2 more under this one and then above that one.
I just want all whiteboards behind you. That's great. So the next question I have for you, shifting a little bit, and normally I ask like, what's some advice for your 18-year-old self? You guys were pretty much like studying and in it to win it at 18. So I don't know, what would you tell your 10-year-old self?
10-year-old?
You could say 18-year-old self, but like I said, you were already there, right? I mean,
yeah, I would say the sooner you can start learning, the better.
I wish I would have started when I was 18.
Yeah. Like we knew at 19, we knew what we wanted to do. And we started reading and doing everything we could to learn about it, but we could have just done it. So I think taking action a little sooner, the sooner you start learning, the sooner you can start taking action. So take action sooner. And that comes from learning and from knowledge and learning those skills that it takes to do it, not having the, analysis paralysis that everybody talks about and just hopping into it. Because looking back, we definitely could have done it sooner. Hindsight's always 20/20. But hey, if you're that person who's, a young entrepreneur, young investor, younger than what people say you should be doing, whatever you want to do, like whatever that age is, just start doing it. And as long as you have the knowledge to do it, people will take you seriously. Once they start seeing you doing some deals, they'll take you seriously and they'll realize that you're for real. So just start taking action.
Right. And I would say even just starting out, there were some obstacles that I made out to be bigger than they actually were. For example, the bank wanted to see that I was going to have a steady income, whether I left the army or not. And all that took, so that I could have not done the deal right there and then, right? The officer was like, hey, we need something to prove this. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm getting out or not. Like, I might stay in, I might extend the year, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time I had like 9 months left in the army and I didn't know if I was going to re-enlist. And all it took was a letter from my commander at the time saying that, hey, I'm able to re-enlist. Sign, commander. I don't remember his name now. I presented that to my loan officer. He was like, all right, good to go. I was like, what? And that was probably a couple of weeks, maybe a month of me just battling, like, now I can't do this deal. And it just took way longer than it should have just because of that. And there's always something you can do to get around. And I'm not saying, break any laws or regulations.
Mortgage fraud. We're not
right.
mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
But I mean, the commander didn't even, I wrote the letter, signed it his name, and just took it to his office. And he's like, cool. Signed it. And I was on my way.
That is so awesome that you were able to go around that. And at such a, and I say again, I emphasize at such a young age, because, at my first attempt, I was 24, and the first no that I got, I was like, well, guess I'll have to wait. Right. I didn't have this, like, everything is figure outable mindset. I didn't have any mentors or, bigger pockets or any kind of podcasts or really education. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm like, here we go.
Exactly. And obstacles are going to come, right? Like any stage of your business. And I'm sure, now when we get to 20 houses, there's going to be something that's limiting us from reaching 40 and et cetera, and et cetera.
Right.
Like
something else to overcome.
Right. Yeah. The first year was our debt to income was way too high. But we were just looking at mortgage lenders. Income's a DSCR loan. Who doesn't care about that?
Yeah.
Right. So there's always something that we could do.
I'm going to dive into that. So you've gotten a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio loan.
Yes.
Is that for a purchase or a refi?
That was for one of the rentals.
Okay. For a purchase.
Yes, for the purchase.
Yeah.
So can you explain how that differs from a residential for our listeners?
Yes. So if we are just looking to buy a home and just put it under a name and just go to a traditional lender who would usually turn around and sell their loan to Fannie or Freddie, they would have to comply under their laws and regulations. And usually one of the items that they look at is debt to income ratio, right? And the banks look at that or base that off of your 2 years of tax returns, right? Well, at the time I was making less than 30,000 in the Army, and we couldn't use the rental income to offset the expenses from a new purchase, right? So based off of that, we wouldn't qualify for that type of loan.
Yeah, a lot of these lenders are very specific. They want to see your rental income on your tax returns for 2 years. Some are more specific, less specific, but that was the one that was holding us up, was our rental. Even though our debt to income, including the rental income, it was good, but without them counting that rental income, it just looked like we had, $1.5 million in debt or whatever we were at that point.
Right. So there are lenders out there that offer what's called the DSCR loan, or you could even go commercial loan on a residential property. But this one in specific, now each one might have their own requirements, but the debt service coverage ratio just had to be a 1. So literally the market rent had to cover the principal, interest, taxes, insurance by $1 to qualify for that loan. Then they look at our business plan. Then they look at our credit score and the rest of our portfolio. But, what we're making off of a W-2 at the time wasn't really a consideration to them, because they knew we were using this as an investment property. And as long as we can cover their note, then they were okay with it. Now, granted, it did come with a little bit higher interest. We did have to pay a couple more points, but it secured the loan. We got the property, and we're holding on. It's still cash flowing. So yeah.
Can I ask a question I know it's specific probably to lender. What did they require down for the DSCR loan?
This one was 20%.
Okay. Not bad. Because most commercial that I have found is at least 25 to 30%.
Yeah. And most are, but there's still some that will do 20%. We've even found a commercial lender, not particularly the DSCR loan, but a commercial lender that would give us a loan on a residential property at 85% loan to value. So we only got 15% down.
And that was just last month that we got that. So people who are saying, oh, the market's changing, like lenders aren't giving what they used to, just ask more people because they are out there. We've seen DSCR loans still in this high 6s too. So that's still very competitive with what's going on. And don't let the interest rate scare you. a good or bad deal is not about the interest rate. It's not about the market. It's about the deal. It's about the numbers. Do the numbers work? So even if it is a higher interest rate, even if it is a 7%, 8% interest rate, but you can cash flow with that asset and it's a good property, you should still go buy it if it fits your plan and your goals. I think a lot of people get hung up on the market. A lot of people get hung up on interest rates and a few other factors that it really they don't matter. It's more about the deal than it is those factors.
I love that. Yeah. Focus on what matters. The rest is just noise. I appreciate you sharing that. We haven't talked about DSCR loans on the show yet. And that's something I'm personally going to be exploring in Q1 for next year. I bought a fourplex that didn't qualify for conventional lending. So I got a HELOC on my house here in California to buy that, but I would like to put a loan on it and get that money back and reuse it. So I will be looking into both, I've remodeled the house enough that it might be able to qualify for a conventional loan, or I'll have to go the DSCR route, which may be a higher interest rate. But again, like you said, if the numbers work, which they do, it should be just fine. So I appreciate you sharing that again for my own knowledge there. That's really exciting.
Yeah, for that one as well. I mean, if this is just an option and something we look at too, if you didn't want to put a loan on it, there are banks that will give you just a line of credit, a HELOC essentially on an investment property. And they, as long as it, you might want to look into this. I don't know how the numbers specifically work with that deal, but if you could take out a line of credit on it and pay back your original HELOC, I don't know if that was something you might want to do depending on how the numbers look.
Yeah, I could look into it. I mean, I got this HELOC. I started the process like in January. So, and by the time I closed on it, it was like closer to April. So the interest rate wasn't great, but it's probably, I don't know, it's variable. So who knows if it's better than what it would be if I got a HELOC on that one or not. But anyways, okay, I wrote it down. Thanks for the tip. And I might hit you up for those lenders after that. So tell me about who has been, or any scenarios, situations in your life that's been the biggest inspiration to you in life and your real estate journey?
Biggest inspiration.
I mean, we both had the same mentor as far as the real estate goes. And I would say he's definitely someone we can call. And he's not here, to hold our hands through the process. He set the groundwork, told us what we could do, what was possible. We started doing it, and now, he's part of a bigger private equity group here in Nashville. So if we have any questions, I would say he's the guy we definitely call to kind of confirm what we're thinking. To me, at least, I would say he's still biggest mentor.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
I mean, just anybody else that's going out there and doing bigger things than us, at least that gets me fired up. I love seeing people that are doing more than us, because I look at that, and both of us talk about it all the time. It's like, hey, what can we do? What are they doing that we're not doing? It's not about luck. It's not about like, oh, he had this or he had that, and that's why he's further ahead. Whatever somebody else is doing, there's no reason we can't be doing the same thing. So when we see people doing bigger stuff than us, we love talking to them and trying to figure out, hey, how can we be more like them? How can we grow our business to their size? Yeah,
you don't get intimidated by them.
No, I mean, nobody's better than you in this game, right? They're just further ahead. So when you see the Grant Cardones that are doing billions in real estate, or have that under management, or wherever he's at right now in his portfolio, the multi millionaires in this space. I mean, we just see that as a resource. Just learn from them because they got there somehow, right? So
right, and they're usually willing to teach. So that's awesome. So do you have any book recommendations, podcasts, anything that you're listening to or that has really struck you recently?
Don't get me started with
podcast. I love The Game from Alex Hermosi. He's not a real estate guy, but he does put out awesome business content. Anything Bigger Pockets if you are looking for more real estate specific things. And as far as a book goes, I feel like we've probably read every single Bigger Pockets book that they have. So you can't go wrong with that. If you're really hooked on one topic, one niche, I'm sure they have a niche to hop into it.
Yes, exactly. And as far as podcast goes, I listen to the same podcast he does. I'll add in there. Mind Pump is another one that we listen to, more for entertainment, and it's more also just fitness podcast in general.
Oh, cool.
A big part of my life, I'd say. As far as books go, I mean, I've definitely realized this as I've read more and more books. It's not really so much about how many books you read, but what you gain from them. So, you know, I would say like a majority of people, I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then it kind of went from there, you know, it's trickled on. But I just take notes from each of those books and make sure that I'm actually implementing them into the business, and seeing how we can actually use what they're teaching, you know, because I would say even if you use audiobooks or actually read them, you know, you can just go through them and then probably forget the next month about what you just read. But
yeah. And so I do the same thing he does, which is take very detailed notes on every book that I read. And so, for example, we haven't done any multifamily deals yet, but we have, I think, 35 pages of notes that we've taken from the multifamily books that we've read. And it makes our life so much easier because we do underwrite multifamily deals a decent amount now as we're getting ready to hop into that world while we continue to buy residential. And it makes it so much easier because if we ever get lost, we can just go back in that 35-page Word document that we've been taking notes on all these books, just Control F it, find the word that we're like, what does this mean? Like, what is that? And then we can find it again. So it's not just about reading the book. It's also about retaining that information and whatever that means for you.
That is amazing. You guys are like machines and it's great.
That's what the military did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're like forever students. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I also put hot sauce on everything because of the Army. So not all
because the food was so bad.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Actually tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got a lot of Cholula and a lot of Frank's Red in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think that you'd get sick of it after a while.
No.
How funny.
Yeah.
It's just
So would you say that that's your boring fact about you, or do you have anything else you can share with us that is a boring or interesting, not well-known fact about each of you?
So we just started this, but we started meal prepping, and we could send you like a clip of this video if you want to insert it or something. But
yeah, that'd be great.
Every weekend, you know, Sunday or something like that, when we're both free, we'll just go to Costco or Sam's Club and just buy for the week. And it usually looks like 12 pounds of beef and like 10 pounds of chicken and 2 pounds of rice and potatoes. And we'll just cook it all at once, set it up for the week. Really just to save time throughout the week when we don't have the time to cook for ourselves.
So it's just quite the scene, us cooking 20 pounds. A lot of times his girlfriend will be helping us out as well. And we're cooking 20 pounds of meat at once. We have 3 separate griddles at the house now.
Oh my gosh.
But it saved us so much time because the amount of time that we would spend, you know, cleaning dishes, prepping the food and all that work. We could be working instead of doing the dishes right now. And so we're like, how can we fix this? Working or also watching baseball or football. So I don't want to act like we never get away from that. But that's kind of saved us a lot of time too.
Well, that, and you're cooking healthy stuff, right?
Right.
When it's the end of the day and you don't feel like cooking, it's I don't know about you. It's easy for me. Like, let's just order a pizza. I'll stop by Chick-fil-A on the way home. Right. And then I end up eating bad instead of something that fuels me. So
it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Last year, when I was having the busiest real estate year of my life, as far as my real estate sales business, I had found a company that did meal prep for me. Right. So that I didn't actually have to do it because Sundays were for open houses, you know, so there was like no downtime to actually prep. So it was, I don't remember. It ended up coming out to like $10 a plate, which wasn't crazy. I just picked them all up on a Monday and whatever they made, I ate. right? We had for dinner for the rest of the week, and we just microwaved it, and it was amazing. And so just like having those, like there's like so much that goes into meal planning, right? There's coming up with the ideas, there's the shopping, right? Yeah. And then there's the cooking. Like there's so much with the execution that I think that.
And the worst part, the dishes afterwards.
The dishes.
The dishes afterwards. The worst.
Life hack, just leave them in there long enough and your husband will do them.
Yeah, exactly. I just wait till my girlfriend comes up.
Terrible.
Yeah, so somebody keeps putting them away. I haven't figured out who it is yet, but
you just keep doing it. Why fix it if it's not broken?
It's also the same meal for us, lunch and dinner for the rest of the week. And, we're okay with that. So some people
I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. I used to like, when I was like single and renting a room, I would eat oatmeal and green tea, like for dinner. Yeah. It was just like the same thing all the time. Like I don't have like this palate that needs to change, but this is probably just TMI. But my husband, he needs like something different. If he had chicken for lunch, he can't have chicken for dinner. If he had chicken yesterday for dinner, he can't have chicken tonight for dinner. It's like so crazy, like the different palates or what we're accustomed to. It's just so trying to make that match, because I can eat the same thing.
Yeah, if you started putting hot sauce on everything, I think you could eat the same thing every day.
Yeah, you can vary. You can go Cholula one day, Frank's for dinner,
Louisiana.
Oh yeah, okay.
Maybe so throw barbecue in there.
The answer is I just need to buy a bunch of different hot sauces.
Really, that's what I need.
Yes, or just start cooking so poorly that he has to put something on it to stay polite. And just leave hot sauce there, because that way he doesn't have to say, he'll be like, man, I can either say something, start a fight, or just start putting hot sauce. Next thing you know, he's addicted.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm so glad that we met today so that I could solve this problem of mine.
Yeah. Real estate investors, army vets, marriage counselors, we do it all.
We do it all. It's a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's right.
Speaking of which, what's next for you two besides marriage counseling? What's next for your business, for yourselves?
So we're going to continue buying residential properties. We really love the niche that we're in right now, and we think we can do a lot in Middle Tennessee. So we're going to continue that side. And one of the big factors we're focusing on is working with other groups, such as the Halfway House. There's a lot of other programs out there that we like them for the reasons we brought up earlier, as well as the fact that they're helping people. So we're going to continue doing that and buying houses in Middle Tennessee.
Right. And these groups, they're really group homes, but they can vary from anything from assisted living to just outpatient care teams or cancer treatments, like people that don't necessarily need to stay in hospitals, but can just live in a home with help of a nurse or something like that. We're digging into this. It's very new to us, so we're still discovering what's out there.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of options, and you've found that there's a need for these homes or these groups to find a home, right?
Most definitely, there is. Yeah. We just need to network with the right people, really, to get into these groups, but.
Okay, so if anybody's listening and that is your business and you're looking for a place, hit up these guys, see if they have a place that you can rent. Do you have a goal as far as how many homes in the next year or anything concrete like that? Do you have a whiteboard for it? I should ask specifically.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. I knew it.
We'd like to hit, I think it's just over 20 homes by midpoint next year. At that point, more, yeah. So
more homes. Mm-hmm.
And with that, we will be transitioning into getting into some commercial deals as we're going into that. We kind of want to make sure we're not overextending ourselves, and we continue to set up the right systems in place so that we don't go in too many directions at once. There's always that shiny object syndrome in real estate. There's so many people making so much money in so many different ways that you want to make sure that you're growing at the right pace instead of, doing that whole building 100 bridges instead of building just one. So we do have some other things coming up as well, but that's our main focus right now.
Yeah, definitely. Don't go and spend all your money on a rental property, start a new business, have a baby.
Yeah.
Live in the mountains. etc. Like really hone in, focus. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing, and you're kicking butt and rocking it. So where can people contact you, get a hold of you, get more information, or look for opportunities to partner up, maybe invest with you?
They can check out our website at www.kdpreal-estate.com. And then at least the business social medias and links will be on there, at least for our personal. My Instagram handle is fpineyro, FPINEYRO _ And then you can find, everything we're doing through there as well.
And my Instagram's Alex _Dant. That's DANT. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions at all. We love talking to people that are just getting started, talking about what we do. Also, if you were looking to invest with us, partner up on projects, we love partnering up with other investors.
Awesome. And you've been posting some really great stuff, Alex. So good job on that.
Thanks.
I follow.
The reels were tough to figure out, but I think I finally got a handle on them.
I think you've got it. They are. I've been having a lot of glitches lately. And so that's slowing down my progress, but I'll figure it out. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show today and sharing all of your knowledge. This has been really eye-opening. It's helped me in my business many ways. You deep dived into a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. And it sounds like you're doing good for the communities and the people that you're serving as well. So I'm so honored to have met you guys and to have been able to interview you both as well. And I look forward to seeing more whiteboards and more houses from you guys and more reels.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Well, that is all for our show. I hope that you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. I had a great time talking to both Alex and Fernando, and I look forward to following up with them in their continued success. See if they really get 20 more homes in the next year, or if they surpass their goal like they did with their previous challenges that they shared with us. I want to thank everybody for listening today. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review or me a review at whatever platform you're listening to. Feel free to also reach out to me if you have any ideas for topics, you want to be on the show, you just want to say hi. You can do so at our website, obsessedwithrealestateshow.com, as well as I'm on Instagram at AlanaGeorge _real-estate, same on TikTok. And if you're looking to invest with me on any future syndication offerings, you can go to clearconnectioncapital.com. Thanks again for listening or watching, and stay tuned for the next show. We have a lot of great guests lined up, and I can't wait. Thanks again. Bye-bye.